and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast. In this edition, we will be previewing Tottenham's next game, a trip to Hungary, the first ever time in European competitive competition. Of course, Tottenham Hotspur take on Hungarian champions Ferencváros. We are live on YouTube, on X and on Facebook, so please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling ahead of this game and let us know how you are feeling as a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now. As per usual, I'm joined by three very special guests to preview the European tie on Thursday evening. We will also hear from Hungarian football expert Bence, Bocsák, and I'll be asking all three guests for their predicted lineups, what they think Ange will do in terms of team selection and what they would do and what they would like to see if they had their choice. Before we get into it, we have been shortlisted for two awards at the FCAs 2024. The final will take place at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in November. So if you would like to vote for us, all of the details are below. Voting ends on the 13th of October. And thank you so much for all of the support so far. Now, let's introduce the three very special guests. We've got Billie T back with us. Billie, how are you?
Oh, life is very good, my friends. Life is good. I'm on top of the world. What a few games it's been, eh? I'm really happy, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, Billie. I'll tell you what, the couple of times you've been on this channel, this is probably the most happiest we've been, yeah?
Yeah, I think after I lost the last time, and we were talking about some people wanting Postecoglou out last time I was on. So, yeah, over the moon, mate, over the moon.
Over the moon, and long may it continue. Four smiling faces on this podcast. Back with us, well, you don't smile very often, but he should be smiling now. Craig Dearman. Craig, how are you?
It's the face, I tell you, it's the face. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I've been replaying Mickey van der Ven's goal every opportunity.
That was he.
His assist. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I mean, it's just phenomenal, isn't it? It's just all over social media, not just from Tottenham, but things have been popping up on YouTube from Manchester United fan channels and all kinds of stuff. So, but you know, let's not get carried away, as Ange said. You know, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be the pinnacle. We need to just push on from this. You know, it's just another game, as they say. But what a game it was, and what a great victory it was.
Absolutely. Back also as channel regular, Gareth McGuiness. Gareth, how are you?
Craig, you want to answer that, or?
I can do it if you want.
Very good, very good. I thought that was darn up on there. That's not bad. You're putting darn under pressure. But Chris, very, very good.
You know
what? It's been a great couple of weeks. I think Sunday was a Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Sorry.
We got about half of that, Gareth, but don't worry. We'll move on. We'll move on to Billie. Billie, let's come to you. I want to know how you are feeling.
Sorry, no. Yeah, go ahead.
Billie, I want to know how you're feeling as a Spurs fan right now, because it has been a couple of good weeks. Of course, that win at Coventry, although the performance wasn't fantastic, we got the win in the end, and we will now face Manchester City in the next round of the Carabao Cup at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, followed by a 3-1 home victory in the Premier League against Brentford, and then beat Qarabağ last week in the Europa League 3-0, and then, of course, that fantastic performance at Old Trafford. All-round team performance at Old Trafford on Sunday, beating Manchester United 3-0. How are you feeling having, got 4 wins under our belt in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, and you know what? It's obviously the last one that is the big one, because the other 3 games we should be winning.
Yeah.
And the story of our season so far is we've been playing pretty well, but not been able to turn it into results, particularly in the big 2 tests that we've lost so far, Newcastle and Arsenal. So this was a big one, really. I mean, Ange's record against the top 6, the big 6, I should say, has been questioned, and rightly so. I think this is his first away win, other than against one of them. But mate, do you know what got me here was the performance. We were absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I think it's the best we've played under Ange, arguably. And even before the red card, which I know we'll probably talk about, we were all over them. We were absolutely dominating them. We were pressing. We were creating chances. We scored early. We came out the traps. For me, it was everything that this season has been arguing to be and trying to be in the first 4 games. We haven't really materialised. It finally materialised this weekend, and I'm absolutely buzzing over the moon, mate.
Billie, talking about that red card, let's get your opinion on it, because I thought it was pretty harsh. James Maddison said it was never a red card. Fernandes said it was never a red card. It's been rescinded, actually, today.
I make some joke of VAR, right? I mean, they've got these referees are supposed to be their job to overturn decisions that are wrong. They've upheld it, and then suddenly someone else has now gone, actually, it's wrong. You're all wrong. So the ref is wrong, VAR wrong. So what is the point of VAR if they're not going to overturn it? It makes a complete joke of the whole system for me, mate.
But the most important thing, Billy, is that we would have beat Manchester United anyway, because from the very, very first second, Spurs were on it.
And to be fair to most Man United fans that I've seen online, they're not using the red card as an excuse.
Yes.
Because I think we created 2 XG before the red card even happened. That was 11 minutes into the game. I think it's the highest XG an away side has created for a number of years, and the 11th highest XG ever created in the Premier League. So, it was an absolutely dominating performance, and it, really, really can't say enough positive things about it.
Absolutely. Talking about a dominant performance, here are the stats. Of course, Manchester United 0, Tottenham Hotspur 3, possession 61% of the ball. We had 24 shots, 10 on target, big chances 9 to Manchester United 0, and passing accuracy 88%. How impressed were you by that performance, Craig?
Yeah, as I say, it was probably one of the best Spurs performances I think I've ever seen. He's certainly up there, Wouldn't say it was the best, but it's up there. And as you say, I don't think the Fernandes sending off influenced it at all. And as Billy said there, the Manchester United fans I've seen online or spoken to, they're not using it as an excuse at all. I think they realised they were up against it. Yeah. And we were going to win that game. If in many ways, I mean, Manchester United would have sat back a little bit more and dropped back a bit, which, historically we have trouble breaking down low blocks. So not that Manchester United fell completely into a low block, but what I mean, they do tend to sometimes hit teams on the break, which they're trying to do with us, but it just didn't work. As I say, though, it's easy to get carried away. You're only as good as your last game. We've got to be the team I'm talking about. I've got to kick on now and put in a performance on Thursday and then again on Sunday. So yeah, absolutely celebrate a win. I'm all for that, and I've been happy as Larry these last 2 days. But if we fall foul on Thursday, then you kind of 2 steps back. So we can't take Ferencváros lightly. It's not going to be an easy game. It's an away game in Europe. The weather's going to be appalling. So we've just got to carry on this momentum, and hopefully we can get 2 more wins going into the international break.
Craig, I'm so glad you brought that up about the, don't get carried away, because you see online so often about everyone goes super positive or people go, it seems, super negative. There's never ever a sort of middle ground with it. These last 4 games, of course, 4 wins. Brennan Johnson scored in every single one of them. Solanke's off the mark. He's now got 3 in the last 4 as well. How important is it that we don't get carried away by these results in the last few weeks?
It is one of the most important things. You can't, as I say, it's no good beating Manchester United at Old Trafford, a ground that has been not a happy hunting ground for us over the years. So we win at Old Trafford and then lose to Ferencváros on Thursday. That's no good. That's not what the top teams do. We have to keep a level head and go into that game and approach it just the same as we approached the Manchester United game. Start quickly, play our football, and get the job done. Like I say, we cannot go into this lightly. I believe the Europa League is the competition where we've probably got the best chance of going the furthest in. So we need to get out this group stage. I'm not sure how the seeding or whatever you want to call it works for the last 16. I know obviously if you finish between, I think it's 9th and 24th, you have to play a playoff game. Is that right? So, and then whether you play against one of the top 8, and the top 8 is kind of seeded essentially. So it's important we finish in that top 8.
Gareth, how impressed were you with that performance on Sunday? Because as I said, from the very, very first second of the game, Spurs were so on it. And if I may say, I haven't seen a performance like that since the Pochettino days, and the fitness of these players was incredible.
Well, that's it, Chris. Impressed, but not surprised, because that result, that type of performance was coming. We all sat here put her necks on the line a few weeks ago and says, look, the results aren't there at the moment, but the style of play, the performances, the intent is there. The pressing's getting better week on week. Teams are really struggling to cope. We're winning so many of those balls in the final third, and when you win balls in the final third, it just creates fear, panic. Man United's players don't know what they do. You know, a lot of talk about Man United being poor, but Spurs made them look poor as well. Yes, United are probably not in a good place, but that was a big game for both teams. You'd have thought that United had the advantage with Spurs having the later game on Thursday, a day less rest, the delayed kickoff. But it was as if, you know, it was as if we had a week off and we come on there fresh without them. But I thought that was something that we could see coming. We sat on here on Thursday night, Chris, and we says we were all very confident of a Spurs win. Probably not as confident of the destruction and the level of between the two teams. Yeah. But I do think I don't want to get carried away, but that is as good as it can get. You know, the performances over the first 6 games in the league have been really, really strong. Only the Arsenal game was the game we didn't really create chances on. But again, against Arsenal, we spoke about it a few weeks ago. It was really just a set piece in the game. It was a very tight game. We matched Arsenal all over the pitch. And you're up against the best defensive team. So they're the only team at the minute I've seen able to cope with us. You know, Brentford, we could have scored 7 or 8. United on Sunday, we could have scored 7 or 8. Leicester, we could have scored 5, 6. Newcastle, we should have scored 10. You know, so when you're creating that many chances, and I think Tom Sherwood said it, and look, I'm not his biggest fan, but who in their right mind would want to play the Spurs team at the moment? They don't give you a minute to breathe. Yeah. It does remind me of Klopp under Liverpool to start. It wasn't perfect, but it's getting better and better and better. Irons can get that back in from Klopp, and of course there's a long way to go before you put him under that bracket. But I think we're the best team to watch. No team wants to play against that. Arsenal might be defensive and might be difficult to play against all that, but Spurs will put you under intense pressure. And if we can add them wee bits of quality, I think we are seeing improvement from certain players like Brennan Johnson. Kulusevski's a man reborn in that number, in that new position. Bentancur's been excellent. And that number 6 role. You know, Porro and Udogie are getting better. Van de Ven's an absolute cheat code. As my Arsenal friend said to me, he's an absolute cheat code. You know, any player like that is just you know, on a different level. No team is going to be able to stop him if he continues like that. And Solanke's made such a big difference to we've got a focal point now. We've got somebody that we can play off. You know, his pressing's excellent from the front, and he looks as well like if he gets a chance, he'll put it away. And he's getting on a bit like we says on the other night. He's scoring them ugly goals that the best strikers do. He's getting into them areas, and you know they're all tap-ins, but they're all designed by him, and we've been lacking a player like that. So Chris, yeah, it reminds me so much of the 15-16 season when we had that slow start, 4 points after 4 games, and we've done an unbelievable run on the January. I think we never lost in the league from we lost to United in the first day, remember 1-0, and then we never lost again to Newcastle in December, I think it was, and we had only lost like 1 game since the opening day and under the new year. I'm not saying that's going to happen again. And I actually think this team's better as well. I think we're only going to get better if we can cut out the individual errors at the back. And I do think that this season we have looked better at the back. I think it's more down to individual errors in the system because we're actually winning the ball back high up the pitch now, which means teams can't really get at us as much. Them counterattacks on United didn't have any counterattacks, and they're one of the best counterattacking teams in the league. There was the odd half chance, but other than that, Spurs controlled the game. And that's where we have to get to, because Irons won't change his tactics, but he wants us to be better from the front so we don't have to be susceptible as much in the counterattacks. The counter pressing's been excellent. And I'm really excited, Chris. I'm not going to lie. I think we could be on there a really, really good season.
Billy, Gareth has spoken there about a number of our games this season. And when you think how we have dominated games, but not got the results that we probably deserved in some of these matches, Newcastle for one, just not being clinical in that final third. Now, after the Manchester United game on Sunday, Ange Postecoglou, and I quote, "I know some people are still not convinced." What more does this Spurs team and Ange Postecoglou need to do for people to be convinced? Because, as you said, it wasn't long ago since you were on the show, just you and I going through a lot of the viewers' questions and comments. And a lot of people at that point were saying, Ange has got to go.
Consistency, mate. I think we've got to do this consistently. And to be fair, and our level of performance has been consistent. maybe our results haven't been so consistent yet, as consistent as Andrew would like. And I think if we can match this level of performance and results over a consistent period, there'll be no doubts left. I mean, personally, as I said at the time, I think it would be crazy to have any doubts at the moment that he should be our manager. I think I've certainly seen enough over the last year and a half to think, why not give this a go? It's, you know, some of the best football I've seen. And I love the character, as you all know. But I think, you know, if we continuously grinding out results like this and performances, there can't be any doubts left. I mean, Sunday, what more can you want from your football team than to go to a place like Old Trafford, play like that, get that result, score those goals, work hard? I can't think of anything better as a fan. You know, we're not just winning games, we're dominating them, and they're really playing for the shirt. They're playing to attack. For me, that's all I ask for as a fan. So if we can do that consistently, there'll be no doubts left. That's for sure.
Billy, let's stay with you because I just want to read some of these stats out here, and this is what has been, fantastic over the last couple of days since that win at Old Trafford. The amount of stats that have come out. Spurs have won possession in the attacking third at least 11 more times than any other team in Europe's top 5 leagues this season, which is 50. We broke our record for expected goals, the XG, for a Premier League match in Sunday's 3-0 win over Manchester United, dominating proceedings at the Theatre of Dreams. We produced one of the most complete displays of the season to defeat the Red Devils on their own patch for the first time in almost 4 years. And when you look at these stats, chances created from open play, Dejan Kulusevski, 15, Cole Palmer, 15, Anthony Gordon, 13, Salah, 13, Silva, 13, Heung-min Son, 13. What do you make of all these stats? Because when Spurs, you know, couple of weeks ago were being heavily criticised by our own fans, I might add, about not being clinical in that final third. But when you look at these stats since Sunday, it's incredible.
Listen, mate, I'm a maths teacher. I'm all about the stats. I think if you're playing well, the stats don't lie, and eventually they catch up with you. If you're grinding out results but the stats are poor, you're going to hit a poor run of form. And conversely, if your stats are good but you're not getting the results, if you stick with the method, they're going to come. And we've had good stats all season, and now the results are coming too. I just want to point out 2 things on the stats that you just showed, though. One of them about the pressing stats. I think that's largely due to Solanke. I think his pressing is exceptional, and I think that's a huge part of the reason why we signed him in the first place. And Dejan Kulusevski, I think he created 9 chances against Man United, which is more than any other player at Old Trafford this season, including Man United players. I also think it's a Premier League record for this season as well. In one game, 9 chances created. I think he's been our player of the season. I think he's outstanding. I think that's one of the best individual performances I've seen of any player of recent years. He totally dominated the game. And I think a lot of those stats that we've just seen are due to the fact that move, putting Kulusevski in midfield, has been an absolute masterstroke from Ange. And I think it's been a huge factor in us turning these performances into results, because Kulusevski in midfield, we're cooking now because of it.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, Billy, I think we could have done a show just on stats this week since Sunday. It's been incredible.
That's all I've been reading, mate. That's all I've been reading this week, all the stats.
Craig, let's come to you on some more stats here. Chances created per 90. Dejan Kulusevski on top here, 4.11. De Bruyne and Saka underneath. What have you made of the transformation of Dejan Kulusevski in that middle role? Because as Billy said there, you know, when Kulusevski's been asked by journalists these last couple of games about his role in the middle, he simply says, well, that is my best position. Yeah,
and he's proved himself right, hasn't he? I mean, if Kevin De Bruyne, which is second on that list on screen, Kevin De Bruyne is doing what Kulusevski's been doing, he'd be getting plaudits, the pundits would be waxing lyrical. And don't get me wrong, Kulusevski's had his praise. He has, but it would be more if it was De Bruyne. So, but I don't care. You know, as I said, I want us to go under the radar. But Kulusevski's just been fantastic this year. And the fact he said, that's my best position, and it's proving to be the case that's right. You know, he said it all along, hasn't he? He's not a bad winger at all, but he's so much more effective in that middle. So, yeah, and that was a masterstroke by Ange. And, you know, who knew? I think when we all have done our lineups at the start of the season in our heads, Kulusevski would never have been in there. You know, I know we saw him in pre-season. He played there a couple of times. I know he played as a false 9 as well. Yeah. I don't think any of us saw him as a false 9, but he was our best player, in my opinion, in pre-season. So, it should come as no surprise, really, that he's carried on that good form into the league. And when he's been playing there, I think we've looked very, very dangerous. And the fact he's created so many chances at Old Trafford, was it 9? It's simply incredible numbers. But as I say, I do reiterate, enjoy it, but we cannot get carried away because we need to keep this momentum going.
Well, we are 20 minutes into this podcast and we haven't mentioned Ferencváros yet. So last question about Manchester United, Gareth. Let's come to you. I've got to show you this. Mickey van der Ven, his touch map against Manchester United. And let's remind everyone, he is a centre-back. I said on Sunday's podcast, I feel like Mickey van der Ven is our best winger at the football club. The way that he went forward and putting that cross for Brennan Johnson, and the way that he went forward against Everton at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium some weeks ago, setting up Heung-min Son. I tell you what, an incredible performance from him. I know we can talk about lots of incredible performances. Bence was another one on Sunday. But when you look at this touch map here against Manchester United, Gareth, incredible, isn't it, from the centre-back?
Well, he's an absolute phenomenon. I think as well, teams are just scared of him as well, feared of him. Players don't want to go near him. They don't want to get just because they effortlessly can just go past them at times. Because like the Everton goal, I don't think he had top speed until the end of it. He sort of just, I think he was going half piss and he was just leaving people on his wake. There was a moment in the first half too on Sunday where the ball went down behind down the right and Garnacho had about 2 or 3 yards on him, and Garnacho's no slouch, and Van de Ven just completely ate up the ground, and Garnacho just kind of looked at his United teammates and says what he's supposed to do, and it was kind of like that for the goal. I just don't think anybody wanted to go near him because of the fear factor from him going forward. It was like something like it was like a superhero just breezing through the pitch. It was, we're looking for a Gareth Bale replacement, but he could be one of our best players if he stays at this club, because it's not just the pace. A lot of players that have pace, you think, do they have the quality? He's ran 70 yards with the ball and he's put the ball on an absolute plate for Johnson. Like that wasn't easy. You think he's the speed he's ran at, the amount of yards he's covered, and he just whops it in with pace on his foot, and everyone's kind of going, what's going on? I think Gary Neville says it was brilliant. He couldn't believe it, but we could, because we've seen it already this season. What a player. I really hope the club get him on the another contract, put him on whatever money he wants, keep him, because there's not a club in the world wouldn't want him, because defensively he's sound as well. He's not a liability. We've got to do everything we can to keep him. I know he only signed last year, but I think he's probably earned his new contract already. I'm sure he's going to have to get a wage bump, because he'll need to become he is one of the best centre-backs in the world. There's no debating that. Any team would have him. Even an Arsenal friend says to me, I wouldn't want to break up the Saliba and Gabriel partnership, but I would love to have him at left back. And he could play at left back, because we've seen him do it for us and we've seen him do it for Holland. So he can play anywhere for a team. So just incredible. Just with Billie says, I thought was interesting too is Solanke. Chris, the press, and he's 100% right, but Solanke is now the first trigger for the rest of the team. Pressing's all about triggers. Once Solanke makes his move, the rest of the team goes. Madison was nicking balls, Bentancur was nicking balls, and the back four, it takes the pressure off the back four. If you can win the ball in the final third, the back four, all they have to do really is push up and read what's happening in front of them. And if we can nail that press in the final third, Chris, we're not going to have to do as much defending as we did last year, and we're going to punch more goals. That's everyone says last week about the Ange tactics. It's no fluke that Spurs is dominant in all these stats. It's down to pure hard work on the training pitch. And this is the best coach Spurs team we've seen since the Pochettino days, because I think a lot of the managers we had before relied on individuals. I don't think this team relies on one individual. It's an all-round complete team at the moment playing for each other. People seem to forget we were missing our arguably our best player on Saturday, and it went completely under the radar, because this is now no longer an individual team. It's down anybody come in. Werner didn't have a great game, to be honest. Already he done better than probably has in our games, but he still played a role in the defending from the front. His quality wasn't there, but it just shows you that Ange has got these players coached to a level that anybody can come in if there is an injury and step in and do a job. I think if Son's playing, we probably won 5 or 6 because he's a better finisher than Timo Werner. But I think it was relaxing. How many times over the years have we gone, no Kane, no Son, and we're panicking because we know how important they are. at the minute, the most important person at the club is Ange Postecoglou.
Gareth,
do you know what? Sorry, Chris. Do you know what's incredible about that Mickey van der Ven run? After about the 20th time I watched it today, when he's running, the look on his face. Just have a look at his face. He looks like he's out for a morning stroll.
No,
Whereas
exactly.
if I was running like that fast, I'd look like I'd just eaten a red hot chili. You know, I'd be like
Well,
that
Craig,
Phil Jones picture. It's incredible.
He's so control as well. He's so much control because, as I says, a bit like the Everton goal and a bit like this, I think the first part of it, he's at half pace. It's not even testing him. It's only the last wee bit where he kicks it towards the line. He really opens up, and it's a bit like that for the Everton goal as well, where before he plays Son, he's at top speed, but when he gets the ball on the edge of his box, he gets to about the halfway line. I think he's just cruising. And Chris, just to go back on what it says there, remember when Liverpool used to make changes in the cup? Salah would be rested, Mane would be rested, Firmino would be rested, Origi would come in, Shaqiri would come in, and Lallana would come in at times, or somebody else, and Liverpool were able to play the exact same way. That's what we need to get to now. We need to go on Thursday. If there is a few changes, which I'm sure we'll talk about, you want to see the same level of performance. Yes, there'll be wee things like Son's quality in front of goal for Werner, but the overall team structure, you want that replicated no matter who we're playing.
I felt very much after Ange Postecoglou's post-match press conference and all of the other interviews that he did, it was almost like he was saying to everyone, I told you what.
Well, that's it. We could see it coming, Chris, and you were there on Sunday. You must have got the same feeling that this is different this time, that there is going to be light at the end of the tunnel and not away in, because when you go and dominate the team at a big away club like that, and it was so convincing, you must have thought, do you know what, something could happen here.
Yeah. It's nice to feel excited about it. Billie, let's come to you. Let's talk about the game on Thursday, this coming Thursday, away in Hungary, in Budapest. I'll be flying out Wednesday morning. Looking forward to this. My first time in Hungary. What do you know about Ferencváros, Billie?
Not a lot, to be honest, mate. I'll be completely honest with you. I know a lot about Budapest. I've been there, and I'm very jealous of anyone going out there, because I've done all the classic European city breaks, and Budapest is by far my favourite ever. It's an absolutely unbelievable city. I'm really, really jealous of anyone going. Hope everyone going has a brilliant time. One of the things I do know, because I sort of, I vaguely follow sort of European leagues from a betting perspective on a Saturday when I'm looking for teams on the accumulator, and they seem to win every game that they play. So in their own league. So that's the only thing I know. I just they're always really short odds, and they always seem to win quite easily in their own league, is all I know. But I think we're at the stage now of the Europa League where there's a lot of teams in it, but I think you can really sort of set yourself up for a fall if you try and underestimate these teams, because everyone gets in when they are by dominating their own home league. If they're not one of the top 5 leagues, they have to probably win their league to get in the Europa League. So they'll be used to winning, and I think you can look like mugs if you try and don't prepare for these teams. So, but I'm just really excited for the Europa League. I think, as Craig said at the beginning of the show, I think it's our best chance of winning the trophy. I know the kind of Man United game's got everyone excited for the league run again, and hopefully challenging for the top 4, but for me, this is what it's all about this season. I want to win the Europa League, and I want to, I think we can do that by we win the first few games, and we can maybe start to rotate the team a bit more. So I think it's a massive game for us, and I hope that even though we've had 4 wins in a row, we don't take our foot off the gas, because for me, this is a massively important game, as is every Europa League game this season.
Billie, everyone keeps saying that Spurs are one of the favourites. Who else would you look out for in this competition?
Well, I would have said Man United until the weekend, so I'm not going to say them anymore. Also, Roma are mentioned with the favourites, but I think they're having a pretty poor season domestically. I think they've changed their manager already. One of the teams that I saw at the weekend is Galatasaray. I know we are playing, and Osimhen scored an absolutely ridiculous goal at the weekend. I think with their stadium and their atmosphere, they're going to be difficult for any team to beat. I think we're in for a much better run this time because the Champions League teams don't drop down. So I personally, I don't think we've got anyone to fear. I think if we're playing like we did at the weekend, it should be our tournament. We can beat any team that we can draw against in this competition if we play like that. So I don't fear anyone. The only thing I would fear is if we start trying to mix around with rotating too many players, not taking it seriously, not prepared enough. Because on our game, we should be favourites for this tournament, and we rightly are.
United will be a threat once they sack Ten Hag. Once they get a new manager on, they will be a threat.
Yeah,
you could be right there, Gareth. Well, Billie's absolutely right. Ferencváros, they do win every game in their domestic league because they've won 6 out of 6 so far this season. Have 18 points. They beat second place Puskás on the weekend. Now, They have won the title 35 times. They have won the Hungarian Cup 24 times. In fact, they have 72 major trophies. Now, to get a better understanding of our opponents on Thursday, let's hear from Hungarian football expert and senior football journalist Bence Bocsák. He's written articles for the likes of The Guardian, The Daily Mirror, The Independent. He has also appeared on BBC Sport and TalkSport. So let's hear from Bence.
So Ferencváros have made a good start in the domestic league this season, but that's to be expected. They are by far the best team in Hungary. I think PSG in France maybe is the closest. So Ferencváros is very dominant. They are expected to win the league title, and they usually do win it year after year. But their goal and their objective has always been to make it to the Champions League. Obviously, that didn't happen this year. They lost to Midtjylland and didn't go far in those Champions League qualification stages. So that was a big disappointment. So I think they'll start the season with a little bit of mixed emotions so far. But, you know, it is still early days. There's a new manager in Pascal Janssen who only arrived in the summer, but he comes with a good pedigree of, you know, working in the Netherlands and coaching some big teams like AZ Alkmaar. He's also someone who brings through a lot of young players, and I think fans are really excited to see that and what he can do. It's early days, so you know that he hasn't really proven himself that much, but there has been encouraging signs in terms of the football and some of the players coming in. So yeah, I think one of those players who I think Tottenham will sort of have to be wary of is Abafani. He's an Israeli international, one of the best sort of midfielders I've seen in Hungarian football. He can really dominate games, particularly in the domestic league, but he's done well in the European qualifications as well. He's not the tallest, but he's very dynamic, very tenacious. He can dictate the rhythm of the play. He's got great vision, technically very sound. He's a very sort of intense footballer as well. He can cover a lot of ground. So I'd keep an eye out on him in midfield. And the other one is sort of a new sensation. He's only just arrived at Ferencváros at the end of the summer. His name is Matheus Saldanha. He's a Brazilian forward. Went sort of viral at the weekend because he looks very much like Roberto Firmino, and a lot of social media accounts picked that up because he scored a hat-trick in Ferencváros' last game before this Tottenham match. Yeah, he has 6 goals in 100 minutes of football played for the club this season. So that's an average of a goal every 16.16 minutes that he's on the pitch. He's a really exciting player. I don't think he's going to be in Hungary for long. I think he's got a future to be a sort of top 5 league player for sure. In terms of the previous game in the lead up to this one, it was a very disappointing sort of opening Europa League game against Anderlecht for Ferencváros. There was high hopes. Historically, it's a sort of game that has gone well for Ferencváros in the past. But this time around, I think they were dominated by the Belgian side. It was only in sort of the last 10 or so minutes when Anderlecht got a red card that Ferencváros sort of started to show a bit of promise, show a bit of sort of excitement going forward. Obviously, Saldanha came on. He didn't start the game, and I spoke about how exciting he is as a player, and he definitely posed a little bit of a threat. But overall, it was a very sort of disappointing opening night for Ferencváros, and they'll want to bounce back. And this being a home game, I think the fans and the atmosphere is going to be huge in the Grupo Arena. Ferencváros fans are known to be very vocal and very supportive. They're a raucous bunch. So, they're going to be up for this 100%. And I think they'll be looking to sort of cause an upset here because Tottenham are the favourites. I really like Ange Postecoglou. I've been really impressed, I think, with the way he's settled into English football. Obviously, it's a long-term project at Tottenham, but I think right now we've got a great momentum going on. The victory at Manchester United. There's a lot of exciting young players at the club, and yeah, I think you've got to be one of the favourites for the Europa League alongside Tottenham. I mean, obviously Tottenham, but alongside Frankfurt, Eintracht Frankfurt, they've got a big home support, and they obviously went quite far in the competition a couple of years ago. I put probably Galatasaray in this as well, just because they got Victor Osimhen and a really exciting team. So I would say those three are probably my top three favourites in terms of being able to win the competition in this sort of strange new format, but almost from a Ferencváros perspective, it's better. You get bigger games, more games, and you get opposition like Tottenham, and you get to test yourself against the sort of, I would say, elite level football teams in European football, which maybe wasn't the case before in previous Europa League groups. But yeah, for Ferencváros, until they're in the competition, this is going to be top priority. They want to do well. Like I said, they're expected to win the league, so the league almost becomes sort of second interest during the autumn period. So they will go very strong. I think the same team that started against Anderlecht will probably start, maybe with the exception of Saldana, because he is such an exciting player. He is the go-to, I think, when it comes to the forward line now, even though they Ferencváros also have Barnabas Varga, who is a Hungarian international and scored loads of goals last season. Picked up a horrific injury at the Euros. So he hasn't quite bounced back since that injury. And maybe that's why I think Saldana could probably start this game. Ferencváros will be defensive. They're not going to go all out. They are going to try and catch Tottenham out on the break. I think they're going to try and frustrate Tottenham, and I think it's going to be up to sort of Postecoglou to sort of try and break that rigid defense down. In terms of this game, I'm actually surprised there hasn't been that much talk about Tottenham coming here as I expected. I think it's because Ferencváros have sort of been used to playing in Europe for the last 5 years. They've been in the Champions League. They played Barcelona. They played Juventus. So they've had some real big opponents come to Hungary and face up against Ferencváros. So perhaps because of that, the hype isn't as great for Tottenham. But I still think, the crowd and the team is going to be 100% up for it. Like, this is the kind of game that you want to play as a footballer and where you want to be tested. So, I'm looking forward to it. In terms of my match prediction, I think, I'm hoping it's going to be a draw and Ferencváros can get a good result, maybe a sort of 2-2 draw.
Bence has gone for a 2-2. So, Bence, many thanks for your input there and excellent insight into Ferencváros. Of course, Bence Bocsák, senior football journalist in Hungary. And we also had a fantastic journalist on earlier today, Aaron Aranoshi, who gave also an excellent insight into the Hungarian champions. Do check that out if you can. Craig, let's come to you. The Hungarian side are very used to playing in European football in the last 5 years, as Bence said there. In the 2019-2020 season, they played in the Europa League. 2020-2021, they played in the Champions League. And 21-22 season, they were in the Europa League group stages. This isn't going to be an easy game for Tottenham, is it?
No, as you heard there, this is a massive game for them. And they want to create an upset. They want to put down a marker and say that they are, in this competition to win it. And they want to see how good they are. And they're going to see Tottenham Hotspur as a scalp if they beat us. So we can't take this lightly. We just can't take this lightly. We can't start slowly. We've seen what happens when we start slowly. We started slowly last week against Karabakh, and look what happened. If we start like we started against Manchester United, then we got a chance in this game. We should be looking to beat them. With all due respect to Ferencváros, we should be looking to beat this team, and we should be looking to beat them fairly comfortably. But this is going to mean a hell of a lot to them, those lads there. And he said the crowd are up for it. They're raucous bunch, I think he said.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to get behind that team. It's going to be loud at the kickoff, and it's going to be loud during the game. So we've got to try and silence that crowd. I don't know much about their players, but from what the journalist you had on earlier today, I watched that, and he said their winger, in fact, I think the guy on the right is Adama Traore, not the Adama Traore, but another Traore. And it seems that if your name's a Traore, then you've got a bit of pace about you, because he said he is rapid. So we're going to have to watch out for him. I think he plays on the right wing and cuts in. I think he's left-footed. So they're going to have players all over the park that are going to match up our players man for man. I think they play a very similar formation. So it's going to be an interesting game. But as I say, we cannot take this lightly, because they're going to come for us. They really will.
Gareth, let's come to you. What do you know about the Hungarian champions?
Well, I thought it was a really good match preview and good insight from Ben there. I thought it was really, really good. I can only go on what I've seen against the teams they've played in the Champions League and the Europa League over the last few years. And look, they tend to struggle when they meet teams of the caliber of a Spurs. And the way we're playing at the moment, I think we're going to be far too hot for them. Whatever team plays, I think there's going to be a real buzz about the team, and the players that come in on Thursday now know as well the level that's required to get into that starting 11 for the Premier League. So that's only going to be an encouragement for them to go on and perform. I don't see any way we don't win this game, and I actually think we'll win quite comfortably. And that's no disrespect to Ferencvaros. You know, Billie mentions Budapest there. I was being there before. I was there a couple of weeks ago, and I drove past the stadium. It actually looks a very good stadium. And I think it's the type of Spurs will enjoy. They'll embrace the environment. And I think, look, Ferencvaros will try and stop Spurs. But I think if we can get an early goal, and I think their fans will enjoy watching us, to be honest, because there isn't a neutral out there that doesn't enjoy watching the Spurs team play football at the moment. They're a great watch. And I know we're going to get into team selections. I do expect a few changes, but I still expect this to be pretty strong. And I can't see any way that they'll be able to stop us if we're at it. I think it'll be very similar to last week, even with the 10 men. I think that last week, if Quarterback hadn't had 10 men, that would have been a cricket score, to be honest. If we have 11 men on the pitch, I think we'll be comfortable winners. Chris, and you'll enjoy your trip to Budapest.
Well, Ferencvaros' first game, they lost 2-1 away at Anderlecht, so they are 26th in the Europa League table at the moment. Hungarian Football Extra on X said to me that despite them starting brilliantly this season in the domestic league, they have not been convincing at all. The atmosphere at the stadium will be amazing, and the fans always perform well. With a big team like Tottenham coming to town, a sellout is expected. They have also stated that Ferencvaros will go with their strongest starting 11. Billie, let's come to you, because when I mentioned those games, particularly against Coventry and Karabag in the Europa League, Ange Postecoglou has made so many changes. Before we get your predicted 11 on the screen, what are you expecting from this game on Thursday?
I definitely think there'll be a couple of changes because we've had a lot of games. We've had 2 games a week for the last 3-4 weeks now. But I think he'll go a mixture of a lot of strong players in there as well. I don't think he won't be making 11 wholesale changes. It'll be a complete B team like we've seen in the past. I think a good number of our spine that started against Man United will be playing. And I think a lot of it will also be dictated to injuries and suspensions, because obviously we won't have Dragusin because he was sent off in the last game. Son probably will not play because he's injured. Odegaard, news coming out today that he's out for maybe 6 more weeks. So, we're a bit light on the winger department. So I think it'll be a mixture of rotation and his hand force a bit as well.
Yeah. Let's just talk about the team that you have selected, Billie, because you've chosen a team that you think that Ange Postecoglou will put out. And this is Vicario, Davis, Van der Ven, Romero, Gray, Sarr, Bergvall, Basuma, Timo Werner, Solanke, and Brennan Johnson. Talk us through your selection here. Why do you think that Postecoglou will go with this starting 11?
I think we're in a bit of a muddle in defence because Dragusin is not available. We don't have Spence in the team, and I don't think Udogie is going to be fit by the sound of things. It sounds like he might not be ready because he did go off against, which leaves us a bit short at left back. We don't really have another left back. And the two options I sort of flip between is maybe putting you could easily swap Van de Ven and Davis around, which you might do. But yeah, I think due to the injuries, we're a bit short. And then I think it'll be a mixture of the team that we saw against Karabag and the team that we saw against Man United. I think Solanke and Johnson and Werner pretty much have to start. We don't have that many options on the wing at the moment. And then the midfield is the one area that we can rotate. I think Basuma will come in because Bentancur started against Man United, and Bergvall and Sarr will start because they didn't start against Man United. So I think the only area we can really rotate is midfield because injuries and suspensions leave us without much options. And I think defence is a bit of a pickle. When I was picking that team, I wasn't really 100% sure where to go.
Billy, with this starting 11, you've got Timo Werner up front. I feel like Timo Werner needs the game time, but I feel also that a number of Spurs fans are so frustrated with his finishing. But as some of the guys have already said on this podcast earlier on the show, that he is such a hard-working player, but he just does need to improve, doesn't he, in the finishing and the crossing.
I mean, if he scored those chances against Man United, we'd be talking about him in the same breath as Kulusevski. He absolutely ruined that right back, the right back of Man United multiple times, but then he missed two really good chances, and one of his balls across the box when he could have picked out two players unmarked were dreadful. But as someone just said, as Mofo says in the comments there, he does stretch the pitch really, really well. And he's probably our best player at stretching the pitch, in fact. And you can see what he brings to the team. It's just the finishing. It's always been the finishing with him.
Yeah.
And even before we signed him, that's what everyone we used to laugh about it when he was at Chelsea. He still seemed there just is something in his head about finishing. If he could finish, he'd be a world class player. But unfortunately, it does seem to be a bit of a stumble that he can't overcome. But I think he'll start. And if I think the thing of him, he's a confidence player. If he gets a couple of goals in the Europa League, we might see him carry that form into the Premier League as well.
So, Billy, that is the team that you think Ange Postecoglou will go with. Now, this is the team that you would like to see. Vicario in goal, the back four of Van de Ven, Gray, Romero, Porro. In midfield, Kulusevski, Basuma, Bergvall, Moore, Solanke and Johnson as the front three. Talk us through this.
It's pretty similar to the Ange one, but I just made a couple of changes. One, I would love to see Mikey Moore start. I thought he looked really exciting when he came in against Man United. He almost had an iconic Tottenham moment with that goal. If that had gone in the top corner, we'd be talking about that goal for decades to come, I think. A 17-year-old scoring on one of his first Premier League games like that kind of goal at Old Trafford. We were robbed of a really great moment, but I would love to see him start. I don't think he will start, but I would just love to see it. And then I put Kulusevski in there because I think he's our best player and I want to win the Europa League. And I think if we want to win this competition, our best players should be playing. Also, I have absolutely no fitness concerns over Kulusevski. He's a ridiculously fit player. I think he can easily handle 2 games a week. He's an absolute machine in terms of fitness, so I have no worries there. And then, the thing that's worried me over the last 2 seasons, I'm not sure how much we can rely on Ben Davis at left back. I think his left back days are probably behind him, so you might see him centre back. So I go for the exciting Van de Ven. I want to see him running up and down that pitch like we saw against Man United. So that's the team I would go for.
Billy, when you look at our Europa League fixtures here, the 8 games, of course, big Karabag last week, Ferencváros on Thursday, and then we've got Alkmaar next, Galatasaray away after that, Roma at home, Rangers, Hoffenheim, and then Elfsborg. There are some difficult games here. How important is it, do you think, is to get off to a winning start by winning your first 2, 3, 4 games?
I think it's vitally important. The reason is because that gives us a little bit more option to rotate and bring in some of those young players to start matches rather than having to start the same players that we play in the Premier League. If we can win 3 out of our first 4 games or even 4 out of our first 4 games, I look at those fixtures, there's not a lot to fear there, really. I think the Galatasaray away would be the hard one. The rest, I think we should be winning those games if we play our full 11. If we can get some points on the board, give ourselves a bit of leeway, then I'd love to see us being able to start players like Mikey Moore in these games and a bit more rotation for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Mikey Moore will get some minutes as well. It'd be great to see him play. Craig, let's come to you. Let's have a look at your starting 11. This is what you think Ange Postecoglou will go with. Vicario, Davis, Van de Ven, Romero, Gray, Basuma, Bergvall, Sarr, Timo Werner, Solanke, and Brennan Johnson. Talk us through this.
I just think the team will more or less pick itself at the moment to a degree. I was tempted to throw in Forster in goal, But the fact he went with Vicario last week, says to me that he's going to stick with his number one. The back four's a tricky one because, again, the decision I totally disagree with is leaving Jed Spence out of the squad.
Yeah.
Because I think we really could have done with him. It's just showing now what we've Dragushin banned for 3 games. It's really left us a bit light. We're okay at right back with Gray, although I'd personally rather see him as a midfielder. I think Davies definitely comes in. I've toying between sticking Udogie in there, but the fact he got a knock, I think he would like to rest Udogie if he possibly can. So I think Davies, that's the reason I stuck Davies at left back. And kind of with if you go with Gray and Davies, you're kind of stuck then for centre backs and have to go with our first choice too. As for the midfield, I think Bissouma comes in because he didn't play any part or minor part the last couple of games. Bergvall obviously got taken off in the game against Karabakh. So I think he comes in, gives Kulusevski a rest, gives Maddison a rest, and Sarr comes in there. Brennan Johnson absolutely on fire at the moment, but kind of the same issues we've got with our defence. We've got the same issues as Billie said with our wingers because we haven't got much choice. It's a bit thin at the moment. So I think you have to go with, unless you're playing Mikey Moore, which will come on to my selection in a minute. I think he'll go with Johnson, Werner and Solanke.
Craig, one thing I love to talk about on this podcast, and we've spoken about it for the last couple of years, is players taking their opportunities when they get them. Now, Bergvall came on at Old Trafford on Sunday. His first touch took the corner. And then Sarr, of course, headed it on to Solanke, who scored our 3rd goal. Talk about taking opportunities. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great corner as well. The Sarr flick on. But the key thing for me, and I said it in our chat, that's what you get when you have a proper number 9 on the pitch. If you go back and watch the slow-mo and it's from the angle, it's kind of, you imagine that the camera being above Bergvall's head. Just as Sarr's about to flick it on, you see Solanke just do a small move to his right. He's just anticipating that flick on, and he's in the right place when that ball falls. And he's at full strength. Now, that just goes to show that yard, if he hadn't moved that yard, he wouldn't have got it, and it would have gone straight across the front of the goal.
Yeah.
I think it was probably going wide. But the ball in from Bergvall was brilliant, and that's obviously something they've worked on. And like you say, that's taken a chance. That's, I don't know if he'll get the assist because obviously Sarr got the flick, and I don't know if Sarr gets the assist for that, but in my mind, that's a Bergvall assist.
I love that Ericsson was watching on, and you feel like saying to Ericsson, that's how it's done.
It was funny. Did you see Ericsson's first corner? Didn't beat the front man.
I'm not dissing Ericsson. I loved him as a Spurs player.
No, so do I. Yeah,
just a joke for anyone offended.
His corners were crap, to be fair.
Craig, let's come to you. This is the team that you would like Ange Postecoglou to put out. Vicario, Davis, Van der Ven, Romero, Gray, Bissouma, Bergvall, Sarr, Son, Solanke, and you've also gone with Mikey Moore.
Yeah. I know it's very similar that midfield and defence. I think is identical. The only change for me is up front, and obviously we don't know about Son. I've got a feeling he's probably going to rest him. I don't think he'll make it, but that's the front 3 I would pick if I was if I was the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, which clearly I'm not, but that's the front 3 that I'll pick. Obviously, the rest of the team is exactly the same. That's what I think Ange will go with. But Mikey Moore, I thought he had some really good touches when he came on Sunday. He had that curling shot, which would have been lovely if that had nestled in the top corner. But he seems to have a fair bit of confidence about him, Mikey Moore. And coming back to Timo Werner, as I've said, I think one just needs to go off any body part, to be fair. And, once that first one goes in, he'll get a couple. It is amazing how much like a rabbit in the headlights he looks. in front of goal or when he gets into those dangerous positions. That one he had 3 to pick out and he put it behind or somehow managed to pass between all 3 of them. I really want it to work for Timo because he's one of our most hard-working players, I would say, Timo Werner. He really is. And like you say, he stretches the game. And look, I'm going to get behind any Spurs player that's wearing our shirt. So I just hope he can get some decent game time on Thursday and actually make a difference and hopefully get a goal.
Craig, we mentioned Dominic Solanke 3-3, Brennan Johnson 4-4 since deleting his social media. Now, when players are performing like this and scoring goals and having that return, don't you want all of the players to be deleting their social medias?
Yeah, if it's obviously affected them. Mickey van der Ven seemed to be all over social media because James Maddison said he stopped watching your assist, which I thought was really funny. But yeah, look, Brennan Johnson, so pleased to see his dad in the crowd smiling as well.
Yeah.
Just really good to see. It's such a good turnaround for the young lad. So yeah, fully respect what Brendan Johnson's done. Look, all footballers or most footballers go through these patches, and if you're a forward, it's kind of it's even more difficult because you're the one expected to produce the assists and produce the goals. So you know he's got a lot of pressure on him, and it only got worse once certain sections of the fan base turned on him. But he's just been sensational the last 4 games, doing exactly what Ange wants him to do, being in the right place at the right time, was smiling when the ball come across to him Sunday. Personally, if that was me, I'd have been crapping myself because I've been in that position when the ball's come across and I've put it straight over the bar. It looks like an easy finish, but God, I'll tell you what, when you miss them, your confidence just goes straight down. But of course, just made it look so easy. The ball was coming at such a pace, and look, he's a professional footballer. He should be scoring from there, but you know, it must have gone through his mind. But that confidence, wow, you know, 4 goals in 4 games. Just hope he keeps it on. Keep going, Brennan, and don't go to international duty. Don't want you to get injured. Don't want everyone to get injured. Just stay. I can't stand these international breaks. I really can't. It's
that's
mental,
a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
We've got one more after this one before Christmas. So, you know, what can you do? Eh?
Yeah. Gareth, let's come to you. And I take it you only submitted 1 team. So I take it that your team that you'd like is the same as Ange Postecoglou's, what you think he'll put out. Vicario, Davis, Van der Ven, Romero, Gray, Basuma, Bergvall, Sarr, Timo Werner, Solanke, and you've also gone with Mikey Moore.
Just as you text me, Chris, about this, I just got off the phone with Ange, so I already know the team. So that's why I might come on team. So. I do think this is a team he could go, you know, because I do think at some stage he's got to throw more in, and we're really short at the moment. And he's shown he can handle himself. They even have the audacity or the confidence to try what he did with on Sunday. Tells me that he's ready, and I've liked what I've seen from him. And you imagine if you put Johnson on and he gets injured and you're struggling, you'd rather throw Moore into a game like this against a team where they've got less ability than a Brighton. So I do think he needs to trust him, and I do think this might be the game because we're really struggling for players. As the boys says there, couldn't have summed it up any better. Defence kind of picks itself. I don't think Forster's going to play at all now unless we have on our hand the FA Cup draw because we've got Man City in the Cup, and I can imagine he's going to go full strength against Man City. So Vicario's going to play that Cup game too. So I think he'll stick with Vicario as the Europa League goalkeeper, and that does beg our belief what Craig says about the 4 goalkeepers in the squad. Why could he not drop one of those and give Spence a go? Because where's Spence going to play? Because I think he's going to go full strength against Man City. I don't see Spence playing there. So Spence is relying on injuries now to come into the team. And obviously, it's great to have Spence there, but we ideally don't want to see him because we want to see Porro and Udogie playing every week. So Udogie's carrying an injury. I don't think he'll risk him. Ange has been... I think he set the tone from his first game in charge when Romero wanted to stay on and he didn't want to take a chance with a head injury and get him off. But like Son on Sunday there, I think Ange is very much confident that whatever players are available, they can go and do a job. I don't think he's the type of manager like I think Mourinho, Conte, they always want their strongest players available. Whereas I think Ange has a lot more faith in his squad, and Son was never going to be risked on Sunday. Unless he's 100% fit, I can't see him playing before the international break. If he's back in contention training, it could come on Sunday against Brighton. But I just think we're that light now, and Murr's looked impressive, and he's, what a big boost to the fan base it would be as well if they see Murr in the team. Because obviously it's great to be back in Europe, but all I'm thinking about is the Brighton game, and I really shouldn't be. This is a bit of an inconvenience for me on Thursday. I want to get the Brighton game, you know what I mean? And I just think this is the perfect game to get my run. So that predicted team I've gone for is going to be the team I think Ange will play.
Billie, let's come to you. No disrespect to Coventry or Karabag. Ange Postecoglou made a number of changes. How realistic is it that Ange can keep making this amount of changes when we play a lot better opposition?
It's not realistic, probably, but I think with the way that the Europa League is now, I think it's absolutely fine during the group stage because we have 7 games to make up the points. A pretty favourable draw, as I mentioned before. I don't think there's much to really fear in that draw, other than perhaps Galatasaray away. So I think that these 8 games are going to be our best chance of the season to rotate. Once we get down to the knockout stages, that's when I think we're going to probably have to start playing, our full team 2 times a week. But that's just normal of cup football. So, lucky if you look at, for example, Arsenal in the Champions League right now tonight, they can't afford to rotate at all. Playing against PSG at home, I think the Europa League gives you a bit more opportunity to be able to do that. So I think you have to make the most of it for the next 8 weeks, the next 7 games that we've got left in this group stage. Because I think once those knockout games come, the chances to rotate will be gone.
That's exactly where I want to go next. And this is my last question to all of you. Billie, let's start with you because Ange Postecoglou has said, I want to win everything. When he's been asked that question a number of times so far this season, what is the priority? He says, I want to win everything. Now, what is the realistic chance of Spurs going all the way in the Europa League, in the League Cup? Of course, we face Manchester City next. In the FA Cup, of course, that starts in January. But what do you think the priority will be? Because, a lot of the younger fans say, oh, it's all about top 4. But a lot of the older fans, I find, say it's all about the trophy. What do you think Ange will prioritise? Because as you just mentioned there, when you do, and if we do get to the knockout stages, you will have to play that same team twice in a week.
Listen, I think the Europa League is a perfect 2 birds, 1 stone. Gets Champions League qualification and a trophy, a major trophy as well. Let's not be honest. Let's be honest, it's a major trophy. And the big thing about it for me is I believe that it's much easier to win the Europa League than finish top 4 in the league this season. In the Europa League, you don't have Man City, you don't have Liverpool, you don't have Chelsea, you don't have Arsenal. 4 of the best teams in Europe that we're not competing with. And every other competition that we play, those 4 teams are going to be trying to win it as well. So it just makes sense to me. Put all of our eggs into the Europa League basket. We get the trophy and we get Champions League. So for me, it's all about Europa.
Billie, lastly for you, I'd like you to predict where Spurs finish in the league table and will we win a trophy this year, yes or no?
Finish 5th and win the Europa League.
Love it. Craig, same questions to you.
Yeah, do you know what? I'd love to see the statistics on how many teams that have dropped down from the Champions League have gone on to win the Europa League.
It was 8 years in a row before last season. For Atlanta,
was it really?
8 seasons in a row. Remember, Sevilla won it 3 times.
Oh, and they dropped down from the Champions League.
Atalanta were the first team in 8 years last year. They won the competition from starting off.
Oh, that's really, really interesting. So that's a telling stat, isn't it? And it goes by what Billie's saying. It's easier probably to win the Europa League, and he described it perfectly, because we're not playing against 3 of the best teams in Europe. And you're not playing against the Bayern Munichs, the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, the list goes on. So it is probably the best route to get a trophy for us, in my mind, as well.
You're right, Craig, too. You're right, Craig, too, because there always is one top team that kind of struggles and falls out of the Champions League, and then they're favourites for the Europa League.
That's
they often maybe stack their manager, and then they go on a great run. So you're right, 100%. It's never been more favourable to win this competition.
Yeah, exactly. And I like the new format. I do. Those 8 games, I think that if we have it done by Christmas, then the 2 games in January, perhaps we can look to play, get some of the second string players out on the pitch and rest our bigger name players, because we're going to need them if we go deep into the cups. Having said that, I think if we get past Manchester City, I think all bets are off. I think that opens up the League Cup.
Let me ask you about that, Craig, because Pep said after that Watford game, when they beat Watford 2-1 at the Etihad, that we're not going to waste energy in this competition. Now, of course, they've drawn Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Does that change anything now? With Pep, does he now take it a little bit more seriously because it is Tottenham? And should Ange go strong if they're going to put their second team out? Because I know everyone's going to say in the comments now, well, their second team is a superb team. Of course it is, but what an opportunity!
I think it is. They're going to go a bit weaker, City. I think we should go full strength against Manchester City. It's just a one-off game. I think we should be looking to go full strength and win that game. Because, like I say, you win that, you're actually in the quarterfinals, I think. So, you're there or thereabouts. So, that's a good opportunity. Obviously, I love the FA Cup, and we don't need to even think about that until January. But important games coming up. Important games. The key, I think, we need a bit of luck. We definitely need a bit of luck. We need a little bit of luck with injuries, which we haven't had at all since Ange has been here. But I agree. I think the Europa League is a really good. We've got a really good chance of winning there, but we've got to take it seriously. And going by last week, it looks like Ange's. So for me, do you want a score prediction for the Ferencváros game yet, Chris?
Go for it.
I'm going to go 3-0. I'm going to be bold. I was going to say 3-1, but I think clean sheet. I don't think they'll score. I'm going to go 3-0 Spurs. And I think I'm going to stick with my very original prediction of where we're going to finish in the league. I'm going to say third.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to change what I said the other week. I'm going to say we're going to win the Europa League.
Wow, super positive podcast today. Billie, what was your score prediction, by the way, for Thursday?
2-0, routine 2-0 win.
Yeah, I agree with a 2-0. Yeah. Gareth, what about you?
Just to say what Craig says there about the cup as well. I think he's right about this cup, the fourth round. That's really going to open up because Newcastle's playing Chelsea, I believe. If they won tonight, I'm not sure how they're doing, but I'd imagine they'll beat Wimbledon tonight when they play Chelsea. Brighton's playing Liverpool. There's another big team going out. One of those two, because Brighton are considered now as one of the best teams outside of the Big Six, and Spurs play Man City. So you're going to have three strong teams out of it, and you never know then who you draw. So it's going to open up that competition. The Europa League, I think somebody mentioned it earlier on, but I think I forgot about it until what Craig says there about the format. From what I understand, the top 8 teams that go through, depending on where we finish in the league, it's in your interest to finish as high as possible because it breaks under like a tennis bracket format. So if we were to say won the league, we can't play the team that finishes second until the final. So it's in our interest to get as many points as we can. So for me, regardless, even if we won the first 6 games, don't you make sure you finish first, and that gives you a great opportunity. Of course, that doesn't mean you'll play the team in second in the final, but it should make it a favourable more path to Bilbao in the final. So for me, that's important. In terms of the game on Thursday, I'm going to agree with Craig. A 3-0 Spurs 1. I think it'll be comfortable. And look, I agree with Craig. I think we're going to finish in the top 4. I've not been impressed with Liverpool. I think they're getting results but not playing the football we're playing. So I think outside of Man City and Arsenal, there's no reason to think we can't finish third. I think Chelsea are looking good, and they have a lot of firepower. Chelsea are going to be a massive threat. The teams, because they've got about 8 or 9. We're talking about we're squeezing players on here that have to play on Thursday. Chelsea could change their whole 11. They've got that many attackers. That's why they can put a different front three out completely for their game on Thursday night in the Conference League. So they've got a squad there that could be really, really dangerous. But it'll be interesting to see how Chelsea get on. I think they play Liverpool and they play Arsenal back-to-back in October. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on against them. And Liverpool also have the same 2 fixtures. They play Arsenal. So there's a lot of big games coming up in October. And we've got favourable enough fixtures as well. So we could make some ground. And if we keep playing the way we're playing, keep main players fit, I think we're going to have a really, really good season like we predicted. Unfortunately, Chris, as it says, I'm going to be consistent. We're 12 months behind where I think we want to be. So I don't see us challenging the top 2. But if we have a really good season this year, possibly pick up the trophy, buy the right quality. I think we're at the stage next summer now. We need the quality. We've got a depth with youngsters. We need to buy players that come on the first 11. And with Man City, all these charges, Pep could be going. Who's going to be that team that's going to push Arsenal? Because I'm looking around the league and thinking it could be us. Because I'm looking around and thinking, well, Liverpool, a lot of players could be out of contract, leaving. We might be the next best team to step up, along with your likes of Chelsea and Aston Villa. So no reason to think we can get closer this year, and then next year really, really close the gap and challenge. So a trophy is impossible to predict, Chris, because you just do not know what will happen. It comes down to one game. Spurs could play a team in the final, but have 30 shots and lose the game 1-0. They have a mistake. So I think we're going to be at the table competing for trophies this year. Whether we can win them is going to come down to fine margins. I'm going to say we're going to get over the line on one of them, but I think we're either the League Cup, FA Cup, Europa League. We all get over the line. But it wouldn't shock me if we were in the latter stages of all three. I think we'll definitely have a trip at Wembley this year, whether it's in the final, the League Cup, or the semi-final in the FA Cup. I think we'll get to Wembley. And the Europa League, Chris, if we can do our own put now in the first half of the season, I think the last two group games are in January. If we skip the next round in February, we don't come back to March. And it'll be interesting to see if we're sitting in the top four come March and we're in the Europa League. It's going to be difficult to manage, but that's where we want to be. So I'm very confident we'll have a really strong season, Chris, the best season that we've had for a long time. And I think it's going to be really set up to go and attack next year then and be that third year of Ange with the right players. I think it could be a really special one.
Well, if we're doing well on all fronts, the January transfer window is going to be an interesting one. Looking forward to that. Gareth, always a fantastic guest. Thank you so much for your input this evening. Thanks for coming back on. And where can people find you on social media? What you're up to at the moment?
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me on. Really good podcast. Good to meet Billie. First time been on with him. Speaks a lot of good stuff as well. And Craig, of course, is your right-hand man. Always good to have Craig on too. And I find myself agreeing with Craig more these weeks. So maybe that's a positive around Spurs. I know. But no, you can find me on at Gareth Hotspurs, and you'll see a link to the 12th Man podcast on there. We do a lot of Premier League based stuff. We done one yesterday about the fallout from Old Trafford, of course, and I think this week we'll be probably doing a lot of talk on Man United, of course. I know there's a lot of Spurs fans on here, but it is generally about all Premier League teams. So if you ever need a wee break from Spurs, although I don't think you do at the moment because they're playing so well, you can always check that out if you want to keep up to date with our Premier League teams. But Craig or Chris, brilliant to come on. Enjoy your time in Budapest. You're going to absolutely love it, and hopefully Spurs can get make a 2 out of 2 and set us up for a cracker on Sunday, because you know what, we haven't even mentioned the game on Sunday, and I'm sure you will mention it later this week. But that's going to be another fantastic game because Brighton like to play out from the back, they like to play our football, and I think both teams will go out to 1, which will make it a really, really good watch. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's going to be goals galore at the Amex Stadium on Sunday. Billie, thank you so much for coming back. You're always a fantastic guest, so you're always very welcome here. Where can people find you?
Yeah, Billie T on Twitter, and I'll echo what Gareth said. It's been a great show. Thank you very much. Great to meet you, Gareth. Great to see you again, guys. And so jealous of Budapest, mate. I really wish I was going there this week. I'm absolutely devastated not to be there, but enjoy it. You have to keep us updated.
It's going to be pouring down every single day, Billie. So yeah, it'll be a wet one.
Oh, is it forecasting rain?
Yeah, every single day.
Oh, yeah. I was there 2 weeks ago, and it was so nice too. Oh,
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah. Craig, thank you so much for your input and all the work you do behind the scenes. Where can people find you?
Yeah, no worries. At Dearman9 on X, if you want to give me a follow, that would be lovely. And as Chris said, get voting in the Football Content Awards. The link's below. Look, I've said it before, wouldn't it be lovely to bring home a trophy from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on November the 21st? But yeah, thanks for having me on, Chris. And I'll see you all Thursday.
Yes, we will be back with another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast when hopefully Spurs have gone to Hungary, to Budapest, and beaten Ferencváros in our second Europa League game. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. And until the next time, come on, you Spurs.